This is the biggest television show in the world at the moment, and possibly ever, for ratings and interest, and and spoilers and downloads and everything. I think we now have to very much consider the books very different from the shows. I think the last two series of the Game of Thrones have shown you that the show is different. It's no longer an adaptation; it's an interpretation of the books, I think. I'm obsessed by the books as well, and the whole lore and the storyline. It probably is the one TV show that does dominate my life right now, if
It's
I'm
a
honest.
hard question to answer, and I don't know how you're going to answer, and I hope you do give me an answer, otherwise I have to do an annoying edit.
Yeah.
But what do you think shapes your taste in things? Why do you gravitate towards something more fantasy based as opposed to something grounded in the not the real world, but sort of because nothing's
Well,
grounded
I
in the
think I
real world.
think in my formative teenage years, I did become a big reader of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and I did like science fiction, the writings of things like Isaac Asimov,
Mm.
and things like that. Who wrote things like I, Robot and the Foundation series, a book series which I'm now reading for the fourth time. Again, it fascinates me. So I think I've always been interested in the other world, the other side of it. I won't probably two other shows deal a lot with that are coming up. This idea that we're not alone. But I don't believe in aliens or anything like that. But I think they're a fascinating thing to read about in a
Mm.
drama or a science fiction setting. I've never been the sort of person that likes a war movie or anything like that. But show me a pitched battle between a load of orcs and dragons, and I'm fascinated.
I mean, I can't comment, but is it still
It,
as
I,
good?
I would, I feel. I'll let Gary answer first, and then
Well, no, I'd be interested to hear what you say.
as they bring in more and more characters, it gets a bit diluted. You have weeks where some of the big characters aren't even in an episode. Some weeks the characters that are in an episode don't need to be there, but obviously all these actors have got contracts to appear in a certain amount of episodes. I think this series, because it hasn't been based on any books really, has sort of struggled. It still has had its moments, but it's one that sort of comes and goes for me. Sometimes I can watch it straight through, and then sometimes I'll have a bit of a break from it and be like a season behind. And this season, is the first one that I have sort of got into a routine of watching, oddly, even though I think it's one of the weaker ones.
This series has been panned a little bit, although the ratings are still very high.
I still enjoy it, but I
Yeah,
just think
yeah.
that
And
you know what I
think,
mean. You know where I'm coming
yeah,
from in terms of the
there's
story.
definitely a camp of people that are book purists or even old show purists that are like, this season's not as good. They're not. Some of the situations aren't as obvious, and there was an incident in the
I wouldn't
last
say
show
that. I
where,
would just say like there's some scenes that don't need to happen.
and on some scenes that don't make sense. There's a whole storyline with one of the characters, Arya Stark, that a lot of people have been absolutely shaking their heads
Arya,
at.
isn't it?
Me,
Arya Stark.
and I'm included in that. I don't understand the logic behind what the writers
They
have
just
done.
wanted to put a bit of parkour in there.
Well, that's right. Yeah, it seems to me like they wanted a bit of action in a scene that didn't need it. But no, to me, I'm still a strong believer, and I have gone back and watched previous series again and found enjoyment in that. So I think this is one that, when it's all finished in potentially 2 or 3 years, I will pick up and watch again as a box set. And I think that for me is one of the things, and it's certainly the feature of the top three where I've watched them more than once.